What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I'm Abe, this is EVE Online, and as a change of pace, instead of playing Galente, I'm going to switch back. I used to play Minmatar primarily and almost entirely, and this whole Galente trip that I've been on it's been a new thing for me. So it feels much easier to play the game as Galente just because you kind of set your drones out and you manage them, and you're a lot safer usually. At least in PvE content. So I'm switching over to Minmatar because there are a lot of things to consider and a lot of challenges that come along with the other classes or other factions that you might not experience if you're doing Galente and you're focusing on drones. So I figured it would be interesting to perhaps go through some of the career agent missions as a Minmatar. This character here is I'm going to do some faction warfare with her, I think, once I get her trained up a bit, but she's already done the military career agents, but I haven't done the advanced military, so I figured I'd make some videos walking through those as Minmatar, get out and do some combat and see and talk about sort of what some of the differences are. So just to start out, we're going to start the swap. I'm not going to read the quest text because you've already heard me run through all of that. But we're going to get into like what considerations you have to make as you're doing things like this as a Minmatar. So this is my slasher ship, and it's set up with a bunch of civilian gear. I've got, thankfully, not a civilian salvager, but everything else is civilian on here, and also a regular small armor repairer. So right now I've got protection from explosive. It's an active module, which means I have to turn it on once I'm out there. I'm going up against Angel Cartel, which if we look over at the what I've got in my bio here, it's something that I found on the EVE University website, and I had to edit it in Word in order to get it to all fit under the 1,000 character limit that they want you to have here. But anyway, it tells you, or it will tell me, what damage I want to do, what damage they deal and I should be protected against, and what sorts of electronic warfare that faction employs. So right here they're saying, that tells me that Angel Cartel use explosive and kinetic damage. So I'm protected a little bit more from explosive on the shield, which will help once I turn that on. And I need to do explosive damage, ideally, to do the most damage to them. And if I look, the vast majority of my damage coming out of these civilian Gatling autocannons is explosive damage. That's what that icon means right at the top there. So we're pretty much squared away. So I'm just going to hit accept. I don't need to worry about adding the 125 millimeter cannons that I'm sitting on. I'll close that, and we'll just move this right up around here, and we'll undock. So in general, Minmatar have a number of different ammo types that dictate what type of damage they're going to do and whether they're long range, short range, and what limitations come along with them. So for now, the guns on my ship here do not require ammunition. They just by themselves do this set of damage. So me carrying around this ammo is not completely meaningless, but it's pretty meaningless. But in the future, once you dictate, or once you see what what the resistances are and what damage you need to be dealing, you have to then go and grab the right type of ammunition for that fight. Now, with every other faction, you have sort of long-range options and short-range options, and Minmatar are no different. Usually, autocannons, as you can see, these are autocannons, are short-range. Artillery are long-range, and the short range, let's see, let me get into this, and we can very truly get into it. So, long range, you have a lot of different options as far as your tank. You're going to be shield tanking or armor tanking. Generally, as a Minmatar, you have the choice. If we look at this ship, usually wherever there are the most slots tells you what type of tanking you're going to do. Mid slots tell you that you're going to be doing shield tanking, or at least this ship is set up for shield tanking. A bunch of low slots sets it up for armor tanking. So as you can see here, we're set up for shield tanking. I'm in a noob ship. I don't have a lot going on here, but let's hover over this. It says Fall off range is 5,500. Optimal range within 900 meters. So this is another thing that you need to consider. Because you're using projectile weapons, you need to make sure that you are managing your optimal and fall off range properly. So at optimal range, you will ideally hit 100% of the time, all other things being equal. At fall off range, or optimal range plus fall off range, you'll be hitting 50% of the time, and I believe doing like 50% of the damage with the hits that you do. So I want to set myself to orbit, perhaps, at optimal range plus a third of fall off range. So a third of 5,500 is like 16 to 1,800. So let's just say 1,700 plus 900 is 2,800. We will come over here and we will set this to 2,800 and we'll get to it. So in addition to armor tanking and shield tanking, there is such a thing as speed tanking, which if you look over here, I've got quite a detailed overhead or overview, and it's got a number of pieces of information here. One is the velocity of the target, the transverse velocity of the target, and the angular velocity of the target. So if their guns cannot track you because you're moving around them too quickly, they both won't be able to hit you at all, and when they do hit you, it won't hurt very much. So I just turned my guns on, and as you can see, I'm at about 3,100. But this is where the active management of Minmatar comes in, is that you really need to manage your range very closely. So let's see. Once I get under 5,000 meters from them is when I usually engage my guns. Now, it's not going to be the best, but because I'm not right at the 2,800 that I set myself to, but it starts to, we're at the point where I'm starting to be able to do damage to them. So I'm really tearing through these ships, and part of the success is maintaining as high a speed as I can. And yeah, they're targeting me. 8,000, 7,000. Well, looks like since I'm close to them, I'll take them out pretty quick. I'll get in and another thing to manage is that per round, your gun needs to reload. So right now, because I have no ammo, it's a non-issue. But that little cycle time and how often you fire will be very important. So if you're, as an example, let's go to the loot page here. We'll just go on in and loot while I talk. For example, like we were talking about with fall off range, if you are engaging your enemy at a range that is such that you're going to be missing shots, if you have a very slow firing gun and you miss, you've got a long time where you're not doing any damage and the enemy is doing damage to you. So it's something to consider. So I'm not going to make you watch me salvage and loot because that's pretty boring, but that was the swap. I'm going to go back in, hand it in, and we'll talk next time, and we'll get a little bit more into range management, ammo management, and kind of what all is involved here. So thanks for watching. Check out the Errant Gamer podcast, which I host on a weekly basis. You can find it on iTunes or Stitcher or probably almost any podcast listing directory. And yeah, it's good times. It goes up weekly, and we record it live on Twitch if you want to find us there. It's Errant Gamer Twitch. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video where we learn more about Minmatar.